G'day everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Wholesome Heathen. I'm Johnny Hullwinter, The Wholesome Heathen, and tonight we are doing another cooking episode as such. Now, our oven and gas top has been on the fritz a little bit lately, so we don't entirely trust it, and with that being the case, we've decided not to do a big soup or another big fry-up, but instead do something a little bit safer, as well as showing you one of our sort of go-to meals if we just want something comforting and warm and delightful that's also relatively cheap and easy to make. So tonight we're going to be doing what we refer to in our house as dirty curry ramen. So we love going to Japan. I've been there, what are we looking at now? Now I'm looking directly behind the camera, like 3 times. And yeah, it was while we were in Japan the first time that I discovered, my love for ramen. And since then I've really developed quite the taste for it, quite the habit. And it's sort of a regular in our rotation. It is difficult to do properly vegan ramen as such. And funnily enough, a lot of the chicken and veggie stocks that we use, veggie stock makes sense, but even chicken stock that you can get is actually vegan. So that helps quite a lot, but obviously we just don't add any of the seafood elements. I personally don't like seafood, so that made my time in Japan interesting. Doing a ramen without any of the nori or the naruto definitely changes the ramen itself, and so I tend to go for a tonkotsu broth base with a chashu pork on top. That's sort of my go-to, and if we can find like a tonkotsu specific place while we're in Japan, I'll always sort of head that way. But when we're cooking ramen at home, we tend to make it more of a sort of a chicken stock base, because the miso to me, even though it is entirely removed from seafood, somehow still reminds me of the taste of seaweed, which I can't abide. So I realized that in the sense of being a true connoisseur of ramen and Japanese cuisine, I am actually being a legitimate heathen right now. But our ramen that we make at home is more of a ramen inspired, chicken broth, and that we sort of top it off with, shiitake mushrooms and spring onions, and a lot of the more traditional elements of ramen still go into it, but the base itself is less traditional. And this version of it is based off a ramen that we found the last time we were in Japan, which was we were introduced to the concept of curry ramen, which is literally just adding Japanese curry blocks, like Japanese curry flavoring, to an existing ramen, whether that's a miso base or if that's a tonkotsu base, and then serve it with whatever toppings you like. Yeah, so the version that we do of it, to make it quick and easy, and hence the addition of the dirty element of it, is less to do with the adding of the curry and more to do with the fact that we actually use mee goreng as a base for this. So this is, in a weird way, a sort of less of a strange take on one Asian meal, and more of an unholy blending, an unholy fusion of two Asian staples, being ramen and mee goreng. So with that in mind, let's get stuck into it. Alright, so something else I should mention is that while this is a very cheap and comforting and delicious take on a curry ramen, if you want to make it more robust and filling and sort of turn it into a main event sort of meal, what we've done in the past is add gyoza or dumplings, and that sort of really helps fill it out. So yeah, if you have the inclination to make your own dumplings, or store-bought is absolutely fine. They go perfectly in this as well. So let's get stuck into how to actually make it. It's as simple as it sounds, but I'm going to walk you through it anyway, just so that we can make a video. So effectively, the way we make mee goreng is to just take him out of the packet, snap it in half, bottom of the bowl. Then we've got our flavourings, which consists of an oil and a sort of a sweet, what is it, like a sweet soy?
Ketchup manis.
Ketchup manis.
Means sweet soy sauce.
There you go. Well, nailed it. How's that? Year 9 Indonesian. Still in there. Now, as you can see, I'm leaving this angry-looking red fellow completely alone. That's because I not only don't deal with fish particularly well, but I also don't deal with spice particularly well. As I've said in previous videos, I am incredibly white. So, you know, vanilla and mayonnaise are very spice. So I'm going to leave that alone. But if you like it spicy, feel free to add it. Chuck in chili flakes, whatever floats your boat. As you can see, this is the mild curry. So that tells you everything you really need to know. Next, we're going to throw in the seasoning from the mee goreng packet. I'm sure anyone that's gone to uni has gone through their mee goreng phase and probably has their own unique spin on the meal. And we keep that aside so that the fried onion component is actually put on last. It sort of gives it that nice little bit of a crunchy garnish. And with that done, we're just going to chuck in 1 cube of this golden curry mild Japanese curry mix, which we're almost out of, and I'll put on the shopping list. Sort of bury that in there. What we have here is dried long cuts of shiitake mushrooms. You can also throw in like black fungus. It's sold at a lot of Asian grocers. I think maybe even Coles has it sometimes. Some depends on where you live and what sort of Coles you've got. But yeah, any sort of dried mushrooms that will sort of rehydrate as you add water to this are great. I mean, you know, traditional ramen, especially tonkotsu ramen, has a lot of the black fungus in it. And the shiitake mushroom just adds a little bit of like a chewy flavour to it. So especially if you're not having any meat with this, it sort of fills that role of having a sort of a chewy meat element to it. So we put in a, you know, well, as always, to taste. You know, we're big fans of it. So we'll chuck in a pretty healthy dose. The last ingredient are these. Now that's frozen edamame beans. Edamame is soybeans, and normally in Japan it's quite common to just order them as a little side dish. They come boiled and salted, sometimes with matcha powder as a sort of a sprinkling, like a dressing, and you sort of just pop those out of the beans, sort of like eating, almost like eating green beans, sort of directly out of the pod. Love Christ, don't eat the actual bean pods in edamame though, like that is the highway to hell. But the beans themselves, you can get them separately, and we chuck those in frozen because the boiling water will do the trick of reheating them and revivifying them. So I'm going to go boil some water, and you don't need to hear that because I learned my lesson from the microwave last time, so I'll see you in a minute. Now that that's done being noisy, we'll pour it into here. If you can, try and get a bit of coverage on the frozen beans and the dried shiitake mushrooms. Just make sure that everything gets a good dose. We'll stir it once it's finished. For the time being, just make sure that everything's got a bit of water covering it. Beautiful. Whack your plate on top. Let that sit for 4 minutes, 3-4 minutes maybe. Depends on how boiling hot you like it. Ah. Alright, time for the unveiling. Oh yes, glorious, magnificent. Right, so now we're just going to add in the little fried onions as a little garnish on top, and then I'll bring you in closer for a look. Righto, there we have it. One bowl of dirty curry ramen, and in true heathen style, eaten with a fork as opposed to chopsticks and a soup spoon. So it's a very quick shout out this week, because I spent the afternoon playing with him and we absolutely tuckered each other out. I'm giving this week's shout out to my favourite little potato with legs, Sonic the Pug. He is my best friend and brother Adam's dog. And I spent the afternoon for the first time since what are we going back to now? June. I was allowed to go over at Adam's house and spend time with the boy, as we call him. And I will put up links to his Instagram account because, of course, he has one of those. He is an absolute delight, and I love every second I get to spend with him. I feel absolutely privileged to be part of this little dog's life. I love him to absolute pieces, and it was just enriching for the soul to spend as much time with him today as I did. So thank you, Adam, for letting me spend time with your son. And also thank you, Sonic, for being such a wonderful boy. You are the best boy. I love you so much.